Yeah, there we go. There we go. Wow, really? You're all over the political map lately, Martine. I can't keep up with you anymore. I don't know who you're cheering for, who you're not cheering for anymore. I know. It's a tough one. Everybody doing all right today? We're doing good. Are you working out? You know, these are things you just don't get in any other ministry. You know, I promise you, there's no one in any adult classroom lifting weights right now. And there's no one in kids ministry just curling dumbbells. But Josh, you just feel that burn, man. As long as it's not a distraction, you do what you got to do. Hey, we only have, we got a couple more weeks left till Christmas. Is everybody being good? Is everybody doing all right? I don't want to make too many Christmas jokes. It always ends up someone gets upset with me. We got a couple things coming up. Thank you guys all for being here this past Wednesday night. If you joined us for our last Exodus XL night this past Wednesday, we had our ugly Christmas sweater night, and it was hilarious. And I just want to encourage you, if you have not done so, go back and watch the YouTube feed of the toilet paper game. Because I went back and watched it about 3 or 4 times. Is Meadow here? Because I don't want to. No, she's not even here. I honestly wanted to give her another award just for what she accomplished. I should have got the recording of the video and put it on there. But hey, go back. Don't do it right now. But go back sometime today and watch the YouTube video of last Wednesday. If you weren't here, the toilet paper was supposed to go in their finger, and they were supposed to unravel it in any way they could without using, like, the rest of their fingers and their hands. And so we had people stepping on it and pulling it up, pulling it with their mouth, people, spinning it like this. And Meadow just dug right into that thing and started chewing right away. Where is Delaney here? Dang, I don't want to. So I did go back. Where's Cameron? Cam. I went back and checked the tape because Cam said, no, Delaney started early. I went back and slow-mode the tape. Delaney got about a second and a half jump start on Meadow. So technically, Meadow was our champion. We went back and reviewed the tape. Hey, I'm telling you guys, it was hilarious. She just started biting it with her mouth, or chewing it open. And Tanner's reaction when he finally realized, and he said, what am I looking at right now? It was good stuff. So, hey, if you missed this past Wednesday, you missed out. It was an awesome, awesome time. We do have Exodus this Wednesday. We're only going to do 2 more, and then we'll take a little break during your winter break. So our last 2 Exodus of the year are coming up. So join us this Wednesday. We'll continue on with some of our Christmas-themed stuff. We're gonna have a good time. And, I think that's focus tonight. I don't know are we having focus? Jay's hiding his head. If you are in focus, please check your GroupMe app later on today so we can let you know what's going on. Did you hide your head because you're not sure, or? Wow. Oh, whoa, there's a bus that someone just got thrown under. And he immediately stood up to go apologize. All right, we're going to move on from this topic right now, and he's leaving the room. Jay is leaving the room. If Kelly follows, someone please check the parking lot, all right? Let's make sure that brawl does not happen out there. Let's move on. Anybody else got any announcements they want to talk about? Not Martine? All right, thank you, Will. Let's save this moment.
I think my calendar's trying to kill me. My days are numbered.
That guy right there. I always like to do a disclaimer because I always see confused faces. Puns with Will has nothing to do with anything we ever do. One year, 6th grade Will just let out a pun, and we're like, that's hilarious. And so it's good stuff. Will, thank you. Thank you for that. So that is everything. So we do have stuff this Wednesday night. Be here, guys. Let's finish out strong. If you had friends that joined us last week and they don't go anywhere, bring them out this Wednesday. Let's kind of finish the school year on a strong, strong way here. So awesome, awesome stuff. Nothing else going on. We have our, first Christmas coming up, Christmas Eve services, guys. Don't overlook those opportunities to invite people. Are any students in First Christmas? We don't have like any drummers or anything this year, do we? Will, you're in First Christmas? What are you doing? Playing the trombone? Way to go, Will. Way to go. Will's in First Christmas. So let's all come watch Will's First Christmas. That's what we're now calling it. Yeah? How do you do it? Play the trombone? I don't know. It seems like a difficult instrument. I don't know. They call you. They have a whole production thing. It's honestly, I know Lee gets mad, but I'm just there for the drum presentation. They always do something cool for the drums, and that's what I'm waiting for. So it's going to be an awesome time. So use that. We don't really have time for a game, honestly, because we did. Is Everett down here? Did Everett come join us? All right. So Everett got baptized. Everybody saw that. Hey, we had a baptism this past Wednesday. We had baptism this past Sunday. If you have been kind of waiting, and I know there's still a handful of you guys that we talked to at Fall Escape, and you guys have been kind of having conversation about baptism. And so if it's something you were like, I need to step forward on that. I've seen these other students get baptized. I want to be a part of that. Please talk to your leader or come talk to me and let me know if you finally, if you feel you are ready to step forward in baptism, and just simply letting people know this is what I've chosen in my life, because we can do them anytime. We can do them Christmas Eve service if you want. You can do it Christmas Day, because we do have church that morning. Nothing down here, though. Don't worry. It's just one service up there if your family is coming on that. So let us know if baptism is something you are interested in so we can kind of go forward with that. All right? That's everything. Is there a game lined up in there? Okay, let's do, because no one won anything last week, did they? We don't have time for a game. I can't do that. Never mind. I see leaders all looking at their clocks real quick like, well, we're not going to have small group then. Hey, let's check out this really quick video, and then I'm going to jump into today's teaching time. All right, let's switch gears here. It's so weird just kind of jumping into stuff, but we're just for time's sake, I want you guys to have plenty of small group time just to talk about the stuff we are doing. Where do you all go for Christmas? Like whose houses do you, your own house, and then where do you go from there? Grandma's house? Does anybody go anywhere different than Grandma's house? Where do you guys go? Your who? To Nebraska? To your... Okay, still Grandma's house, though. Everybody goes to Grandma's house, yeah. Sometimes you go where? Boonville. Who lives in Boonville? Your uncle and family. All right. Anybody else go anywhere? Yeah. Uncle's house. Okay. So in those homes, aunt's house. All right. Aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, someone like that usually. In those homes or in your own home, I started hinting about this because we're talking about messy Christmas. Does anyone have in your family that one super neat freak that just cannot stand for even a piece of paper to stay on your floor longer than 20 seconds when you guys are unwrapping presents and gifts? Anybody have anybody like that? Chloe Love, who is it in your family? Your mother? Really? I thought because she's just used to having so many kids around, at this point, she's like, whatever, we'll clean it later. How fast? If you guys are unwrapping presents, how fast is that paper getting picked up? So she's taking the ripped stuff. Does anybody have a parent, somebody that does that? As you're ripping it up, they are taking it from your hand and putting it. Who has the big trash bag that sits in the living room while Oh my gosh. That drives me crazy. I hate that. Having a giant trash bag in the living room while you're unwrapping presents. Now, does anyone have, on top of that, let's see how bad it can be. While they are taking the trash and putting it in the trash bag, do you also have the one person that's like, oh no, we'll reuse that one? Do you have the bow collector or the bag collector? It's only partially wrinkled. We will iron those out. We will reuse that. We will retape that bow. Now, do you have I call them bow collectors. Do you have the bow collector and the trash bag people in the same, is it the same person or is it like two different people? Couple of different people? You have one person grabbing bows and the other person grabbing trash. All right. Tell them to stop, okay? This year, I'm going to tell Rita to stop, all right? I'm going to text her. I'll text her Christmas morning. Say, Rita, leave the trash just for a second. Leave that trash. Leave it all out. How many of you guys would rather just leave the paper out and then clean it up? How many of you are like, pick it up automatically? How many are like, I don't care, someone else does it and it magically disappears? All right. For those of you, I just want to let you know, it's okay to relax. It's okay to let that stuff lie there. But sometimes we have to have everything gets picked up, trash gets put away immediately because we like to have everything put in order. Now, how many of you guys put away your Christmas decorations like the day of Christmas? Like once all the family's done, then Christmas decorations get put away. Do you for real, Jay? The next day? All right, December 26th. How many of you guys are putting up Christmas decorations on the 26th? Really? Lisa, do you do that? The 26th, you're like, that's enough. It's time to go. Well, leave them up for your birthday. Celebrate. Oh, what? Baby Jesus decorations aren't good enough for your birthday? Come on. Come on. All right, yeah. You haven't even decorated for Christmas? Oh, my gosh. I got to talk to your parents. It's probably time. It's probably time. Your parents well, yeah, and your mom had trees up on Halloween. So, yeah, flip, quarters are doing it. You guys leave them up, put them up, leave them up. You are getting every penny's worth of those decorations. Now, here's what's funny. For those of you that put them away immediately, you know, congratulations, I guess. I don't know. Whatever reason you have to do it. But it's just funny seeing the way different people handle it. Like, I always assumed everybody just left all their trash all over the floor because that's just how I had always done things growing up. And it was the first time me and my brother went over to a friend's house for, like, we were doing some Christmas stuff with them. And they had one of the ladies, I don't know if it was an aunt or somebody, just picking up trash. Like what you said, like you would unwrap something and they would just be like, before it even hit the ground, you could like throw it in the air and they're catching it and putting it in that bag. And that was the first time I realized, like, whoa, people really like to keep a clean ship on this one, all right? What is that? Sound like did anybody else hear that clicking? All right, I thought a helicopter was landing out back. It normally doesn't pick me up till 12:30. That's how weird. Thank you, and goodbye, everybody. All right. So we try to keep things very much in order. We try to keep things, super, some of us just like that control. And that's kind of what we're talking about with this theme, Messy Christmas. And we talked about the fact that sometimes Christmas always looks perfect. And we like to make, and having decorations and everything look perfect. All those things look great. And those things, that's all fine and good. And even the point, like, even our Christmas morning, when we knew, 8 kids or however many are running around Rita's house. How many do you have between, like, Chloe Love, how many people come over to your house for Christmas? There's a lot. Yeah. Or wherever you guys are doing Christmas at. Yeah, there's a lot. She's got a big family. So, but even then, like, there could be all these people, but then your stuff's still going to look perfect and clean and everything. And, like, that's not real. Like, there was obviously a ton of trash going on. There's lots of junk taking place there. But we try to keep this appearance. And that's kind of what this series, Messy Christmas, is all about. And we kind of looked at the birth last week. And I want to move on a little bit beyond that today and kind of get to what we're looking at here. And this idea of how we try to control everything. And sometimes it's completely unnecessary. And even the whole point of Jesus was to say, you don't always have to be in control of everything. You don't always have to act like everything's perfect. And it's okay to show that honest side of it. It's okay to let that paper fall on the floor. It's okay to spend 10 cents and go buy another bow next Christmas. Like, not everything has to, like, be perfect and exact all the time. And this is kind of what we're looking at here. It's a little bit of an extreme example, but we'll kind of jump into that. So we went through the birth of Jesus last week, and we did the manger and kind of looked at the messiness of all of that. And now we're kind of jumping in here in Matthew chapter 2, and we're looking at this King Herod, okay? And so I want to read some of these verses to you. You can kind of follow along. I think, will they be on the screen? I feel like I'm always blocking this when I do that. So I want to look at this verse, and it says, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod. And King Herod's kind of this central figure at the time. So you have the Roman Empire, and then over different areas, they would like allow different people to rule. They were kind of like their governors or whatever. And King Herod was kind of in charge of this area over predominantly a lot of Jewish people. And so Herod was kind of placed in charge, and so that's where we get King Herod from. And so jumping ahead after this, again, this is after Jesus was born. Magi, or the wise men, all right, from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, where is the one who has been born King of the Jews? We saw a star when it rose, and we have come to worship him. Now, again, remember, I tell you guys this all the time. Those three wise men that are in your nativity scene do not belong there, okay? So if you want your parents to have a biblically accurate nativity scene, go hide them. Move them around the house, move them far away. They are nowhere near the manger scene in that nativity. So take them and move them don't hide them. Move them to the furthest point of your household today. I'm sure your parents will be totally happy about that. And just tell them this is biblically accurate. All right? And so those wise men were nowhere near the manger scene at the time. This was after Jesus was born, a little bit beyond that. And so they came, these wise men, and we don't know a whole lot about these men. We don't know how many there were. But we knew they were men that were studying prophecy, studying scripture, and through some revelation, somehow they knew that Jesus was born. And so they come to worship. And so they come to King Herod expecting him to know, like, surely you know where this Messiah has been born. Like, you're the ruler over this area. And so they come to Herod. And in that moment, King Herod was obviously disturbed. Okay, so chapter 2, verse 3, it says, King Herod was disturbed because King Herod, so they tell him, we have come to worship this king of the Jews, right? Well, who got placed in Roman power to be king over the Jews? Herod, all right? Herod was in place, and he didn't exactly care a whole lot about the Jewish people, but he was considered like king over them. And so now he hears about this child that's been born as king of the Jews, and so he naturally gets a little disturbed. Like, who is this? Are they going to worship him? Well, like, what does this mean about my power? And so Herod has this immediate need to control everything in this situation. Now, this, again, is a pretty extreme, like, I don't want to compare King Herod to the person that picks up trash in your family because King Herod was also like a murderer and does some pretty terrible things. So I'm not saying that Rita would do any of these things, but I'm just saying our need to control things. Herod perceived something as, I need to control this situation. I need to control what's taking place here. And so he kind of comes up with a lie to them. So he sends them to Bethlehem, and he says, go search carefully for this child, and as soon as you find him, report back to me, like, let me know, so that I too may go worship him. So King Herod kind of has this idea of like, all right, you guys go find this kid, and once you find this child, come tell me so I can worship him. And by worship him, he meant kill him. And so this was Herod's plan to control something that he thought would be a threat on how he lives. Now, again, this is a pretty extreme example, but it is something that I think everybody at some time has to deal with, this idea of controlling a situation, controlling something that we see as may like threaten how we are, whether it's somebody on a team, they like kind of maybe catching up to where you're at, and you start kind of like, maybe as a teammate you used to help out or look out for, but you're like, this person's a threat to me. So you kind of do things to mess them up. Maybe a friend that has stuff better than you, and you kind of start having different feelings toward them, so you try to start controlling or manipulating certain situations. And so we all have a tendency to be able to do this, and sometimes we even do this with God. We have this idea that, well, I know what Jesus wants from me, but I know how I'm living right now. And if he wants me to change, and so we take that as a threat. Like, I'll give Jesus some of these things, but I'm not going to give him this part of my life. And often we even see this as a threat to how we live. If I really gave my life over to Christ, I'm going to have to change what I do And that might be a little bit of a threat to us. So we start kind of finding ways around that. We try to control the things that we want to do that we view as trying to change how we want to live our life. So it might start as like lying to a friend, backstabbing somebody, gossiping about somebody. It could be lying to your parents, hiding things that you're doing because you're trying to control all this stuff. And we're trying to give the image that we have everything together, but we're kind of lying and hiding things behind people's back. Whether it's a friend, whether it's hiding and lying to our parents and hiding things that we're doing, or just to other people. We see these things as like, this is going to be a threat on how I want to do things. And so we try to make a good image, but behind the scenes we're doing things we deep down know probably isn't the best thing for us, but it's what we're choosing to do anyway. And it's not just students, adults, we all have a tendency to do this as our first natural act of defense, instead of realizing I don't need to do that. Jesus was not a threat to King Herod. Jesus did not come to overthrow political leaders. If Herod had just backed off and said, you know what, I'm just going to, hey, go find this king of the Jews. Go find this religious leader. Let's kind of see what had happened. But Herod wanted to control anything that he thought this might change how I do things. This might change what I want to my life to look like. And so he was willing to just go kill children in order to cover up what he was doing in his life and how he was leading. And so obviously the things we do are much smaller, but we still do them. And when in reality, Jesus was coming to offer peace to people, to offer a thing that's like, you don't need to always have to be in control. You have a God that loves you that you can give these things over to. The very thing Herod was willing to murder for, Jesus was coming to die for us to have. And so you see this baby coming to die so that we could have peace and not have to feel like we always have the control. Jesus was coming to be a sacrifice for the very things that Herod goes and says, I'm going to kill in order to try to have some sort of perception to hold on to these things. And so no matter what we do, we look at Jesus and his story and what he did for us, and we realize I don't have to do that. If there are things that I'm willing to try to, get around, it doesn't need to be a part of it anyway. And so when we start handing these things over to Christ and not trying to control this image that we have, whether that image is something that we know we're doing that we shouldn't be doing, or whether it's simply an image that we're just trying to be good, but we're still not giving control over to Jesus. He says, you don't have to do that. All of these things that you're trying to make appear, you can just hand over to me. These things you're trying to get other people to perceive that you're like this perfect kid, or you have this, or you're not doing junk that you shouldn't be doing. Like, you can just hand these things over to Christ and allow God to work in your life. And that was what Jesus was born for. He was not coming to put Herod in any danger. He was coming to offer the world peace. And so this idea of a messy Christmas continues with this idea of we don't have to put forward this perfect thing. We don't have to hide things and lie about things and cover up from things and continue to deceive other people, but most importantly, deceive ourselves. When we hand these things over to Christ and say, I don't want this, we have to release these things. I forgot to bring this jar, and I meant to do it because it was a great illustration in here. But it was actually how some people would catch baboons. And they actually found they did this with babies too, like children and babies. So apparently you can catch a baby the same way you can catch baboons. So yeah, good for us. Where they would put food or something in a jar. And for monkeys in the wilderness, they would put it in these holes in the ground. And they would go in and try to grab the food. And hunters could walk right up to the baboons and just kill them or capture them if they were going to sell them, because they would come in and they would grab things to hold, and then they couldn't get their hand out of the jar or, this cage or whatever that they were holding it in, because the food was larger, than what they could do with their fist. And so these monkeys would just be like, screaming and going crazy, and they would just walk right up and throw nets over them or kill them, because they wouldn't let go of what was in the jar. They were just trying to keep a hold of it and trying to grab it. And they found out you can do the same thing with toddlers and babies. Put candy in a jar, and they'll get in there and they'll start crying because they can't get their fist out. And they're like, here, you let go. And then like a parent can come and tip out and get the candy out for the kid. And they're like, oh, okay. And they start eating. Well, this idea that we grab a hold of things and then wonder like, why is everything going wrong? I just want to get this. And we get stuck in here when all along Jesus is like, let go of that. And let me bless you with the things that I have for you. And stop holding on to the junk that is unnecessary. When we let go and hand these things over to Christ, we let go of this idea that we have about ourselves, about our image, about how perfect things need to be, and we hand these things over to Christ. And so, guys, when you guys go to your small groups today, I want you to think about this, because we've gone through some pretty, big extremes. So first of all, if you're out there killing people to get what you want, please talk to your leader today. Like, we really need to discuss that thing. Probably sit down with your parents, have a good conversation. And if you're asking why, we should talk about that too, all right? So first off, but then also kind of break it down into your own life. What are things that we hold on to? What are things that we try to control to make ourselves appear like we have it all together? When everybody, when it's not all there. What are some things that you've gotten caught for, busted for lying or for trying to cover up things that you were trying to make it appear like everything's okay, but you knew what you were doing? These things come out. What are things that we need to give up or let go of, or just give to Jesus and say, you know what, God, here's what it is, and let God work in your life through it. Let God help determine some of these things. And so I want you guys to have time in your small groups to discuss these things, kind of talk about this and why we feel the need to present everything as perfect, when in reality, it is a messy living room with paper everywhere. It's not everything was perfect and our kids just magically unwrapped all their presents and everything was perfect. Like, there is messes in our life. And it's okay to sometimes allow people to see that, and it's okay to let God take those messes. It's okay to hand those things over. He is not there to threaten you. He's there to offer you this peace and say you don't have to always have control. So I want you guys to have small group time to discuss that. So let me pray for you all and let you guys dismiss to your groups. God, I thank you just for our students and for this lesson, God. I think it's something, even as I go over, like I pray over it, and I'm able to look at and say, man, this applies to my life. And God, I pray for every single person in here that we don't look at this and say, well, no, there's nothing in my life that this applies to. It applies to all of us, students, leaders. We all have things that we hold on to, and we can say, I just need to give this to God and not feel like I have to be perfect with stuff. We all have a little bit of messiness in our lives, and we need to hand these things over to you, God. And so we thank you for that, and thank you for what you've done in our life and what this season is all really about. This you were born to allow us to give things over to you. And we thank you, God. Amen. You guys can leave the chairs as long as no one spilled anything. So leave the chairs where they're at. Don't leave any trash behind. And you guys have time to go off with your groups today.